Hello and welcome to Cinema Chat. Cinema Chat's the podcast where we talk about the movies and the people that made them. And in this week's podcast, we got a really good one. I will be talking about Hedy Lamarr, the great movie star from the 30s, 40s, and on into the 50s. And she was also an inventor. As a matter of fact, she's in the Inventor Hall of Fame, and she was a great movie star. She was a co-star with Jimmy Stewart, William Powell, Walter Pidgeon, Ray Milland, Victor Mature, Bob Hope, Clark Gable, Spencer Tracy. A virtual who's who, Charles Boyer. In 1933, a very young Hedy Lamarr started a movie called Ecstasy, which was very controversial at the time and even remains so. In 1933, it was a film that had nudity and also simulated sex. Of course, in the scene, Hedy is the only person in the scene, but it was inferred that there was a man in the room as well. But Hedy is one of those characters that, or one of those people that was a little hard to figure out. She came from Austria, and she definitely had an accent, and she was, as she would say, maybe cursed because she was so beautiful. And she indeed was beautiful, and there's no question about that. Possibly, it's all subjective, but possibly the most beautiful actress that ever graced a movie screen. But she was also a genius that invented the technology that would eventually become cell phone technology and GPS technology. Amazing. Now, here's the thing, is I have, this is going to be a long podcast, but I have three really great guests. And I will be talking to two of Hedy Lamarr's biographers, one Marie Benedict, and she wrote a book called The Only Woman in the Room, and it's aptly titled because she does appear to be the only woman in the room when she is in the room, and she definitely lit up a screen. I'll also be talking with another biographer, Stephen Michael Shearer, who wrote very comprehensive biography on Hedy Lamarr, and Stephen also would like you to check out his books, his biography on Patricia Neal, and also on Gloria Swanson. I had a very detailed conversation with Stephen Michael Shearer, and I think you'll enjoy that. And I also talked with Alexander Dean, the director of the movie documentary called Bombshell, the Hedy Lamarr story, which was produced by Susan Sarandon. Alexandra was kind enough to give me some time to talk about her thoughts on Hedy. So I've got three interviews, and I'm going to start playing them, and I hope you enjoy. I do have to preface the fact that a couple of the interviews might be a little bit on the disjointed side. Had a little trouble with the record button with Marie Benedict, but most of the interview is intact. So, but anyway, here we go. The first one will be with Marie Benedict, And then we'll be talking to Alexander Dean, and then to the wonderful Stephen Michael Shearer.
Of a young Jewish woman. It begins in 1930 in Siena, and it tells the story of this young Jewish teenager who sort of embarked on a fledgling acting career, but gets pulled away from that when she's wooed by Austria's richest man. She marries him. He owns a munitions manufacturing business, which, given the political landscape that they're in, and sort of post the rise of the Nazi power, rise of fascism around Europe, he becomes an arms dealer, first to Mussolini and then to Hitler. And as she hosts all these dinner parties and balls where her husband conducts his military business, this young woman begins to learn the secrets of World War II. She begins to learn about military plans, weaponry designs, and she also learns the plans for the Jewish people. Understanding that she's at risk, both politically and governmentally in the landscape, and also with respect to her husband, who's becoming more and more controlling, she escapes. She makes her way to London, where she has a very fortuitous meeting with Louis B. Mayer, head of MGM Studios, arguably the most powerful man, or one of them in America. And as she rides, sails across the Atlantic with him and a whole group of people, she becomes rechristened the actress that we know as Hedy Lamarr. But once she arrives in Hollywood, and within the first year, she becomes an international star with the movie Algiers. Some of those horrible plans that she overheard happening when she was entertaining with her ex-husband, start to happen. The Anschluss happens. Austria is invaded and taken over by Germany, and the persecution of the Jewish people begins. And she decides she wants to strike out against Hitler and against the Nazis, and so she uses all that secret information that she had about weapons, and she decides she's going to build a weapon system to make torpedoes more effective. She patents it. She offers it to the Navy for use in the war, and they refuse to accept it and utilize it. And she assumes that the death knell has rung for this incredible invention that she's made, but she's wrong. In the years afterwards, as she's making more movies and as the war continues, her invention in multiple iterations ultimately becomes Wi-Fi and wireless, which obviously we use every single day.
Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, it's really amazing that we're talking about a Hollywood actress, and you're talking about torpedoes and weapon systems. And it's incredible. Now, what do you think Hedy Lamarr wanted her legacy to be? What ultimately do you think she wants to be remembered for?
I think again, I read fiction, and so I'm always projecting the Hedy that I know, the Hedy that I've written about, which is not necessarily Hedy Lamarr, the real self, but based on the Hedy that I've come to passion and know, I would say she would be more, she would find it more rewarding that her legacy was actually the scientific creation, instead of the movies and her beauty. I mean, I think in the years after she submitted this invention to the Navy and had it patented, I think she kind of lost that more scientific part of herself. And I think in some ways that was more her authentic self. She kind of got swept up into this notion that her beauty was really all she had. And as the years progressed, I think she, looking back on her life, she may have wished that it was more her intellect than her beauty that she had been known for. So I kind of think, Hedy being the Hedy that I think she is, or think she was, I would guess that she would want her legacy to be her intellect and her invention.
Yeah, it's interesting, because when you look at late interviews from her, you can see that she said more than one time that people, that she had to reinforce with people that she was indeed a smart person, and you could just tell in interviews that she had this little voice in the back of her head. Well, am I really that smart, or am I just a movie star? And I think that the fame and her beauty did catch that. She's one of the few people that kind of really is both. Do you know if she had a film that she was really proud of, or a role that she was proud of?
I would say of all, and again, I was more enmeshed in her life, in her early years rather than her later years, but from what I've read and from the Hedy that I've kind of come to know, I would say she fought for and was very proud of H.H. Pullman Esquire, which I think was her film in which she played a great business person, as opposed to just sort of an ornamental figure. If I had to guess, I would say that was probably her favorite. It's one of my favorite roles of her, because you get to see her quick wit, you get to see her beauty, to see all those parts of her that were really there, but most of her work didn't allow to shine. She was so often cast as sort of the exotic beauty because she had an accent, and because she was so strikingly beautiful. But I think those were not always the roles that she really wanted. She really advocated for things that were meatier and maybe showed her intelligence a little bit more.
one other question. Do you have a favorite Hedy Lamarr film?
It would probably be that one if I had to pick, although I do have a certain fondness, even though it's not the greatest movie, but for Algiers, which was her very first American film. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
I am.
If you've seen it. It's not the best, I don't think, piece of movie making necessarily, but it does have certain striking features, and one of them is sort of this very specific way in which she films. The director had all this very specific lighting created for her, and it was really that movie that launched her into becoming an international star. And so I have several scenes in the book where I imagine her on the set of that movie, and because of that, I think I have a special fondness for that movie because I know what that did for her and for her career, and I really feel for her in that moment. She's this really young Austrian woman who's been through an incredible amount, and here she's in Hollywood trying to make her way, and I could really envision her as she's on the set of that movie. But I would say it's overall still poem.
Wonderful. Well, we've been talking to Marie Benedict. I really appreciate you coming on and talking about the great Hedy Lamarr. Marie, how do people get your book? I noticed you got an ebook.
Oh yeah, it's everywhere. You can buy it. It was the Barnes & Noble National Book Club pick for the month of January last year, so it's widely available at Barnes & Noble, independent bookstores, Amazon. You can get it at Target. I mean, really anywhere that they sell books, you can buy it, whether it's in hardcover, paperback, or ebooks. As you mentioned, audiobooks. It's widely available on Audible as well. And for me lately, that's kind of a new thing for me that I really enjoyed the audio piece of it as well.
I'm about to catch a plane in a couple hours, and I have a plan to dive into the book on that plane. So,
Well, I hope you enjoy it.
Marie, thank you very much for coming on again, and I really appreciate it. All right, you have a wonderful day.
Okay. You too. Thanks so much.
Bye-bye. We've been listening to Marie Benedict, and Marie wrote an intriguing book about Hedy Lamarr, The Only Woman in the Room, a novel. And I just think Hedy Lamarr is just a fascinating figure. And I want to thank Marie for coming on to... And I'm joined right now by Alexandra Dean, and I really appreciate Alexandra coming on the show today. We are going to discuss Bombshell, the Hedy Lamarr story. That was a documentary filmed a couple of years ago, and Alexandra was able to interview a lot of big names for this movie to talk about Hedy Lamarr, some people that really know things about her. I want to say thank you very much, Alexandra, for coming on the show.
Oh, thank you so much for having me on the show.
Yes, it's such a wonderful subject to talk about. And how did you decide to make the film Bombshell? How did that all come about?
I was a journalist for Business Week and for Bloomberg Television, and I was doing a column for Business Week on innovators. I was a contributor to one, and I was doing a series on inventors for the television channel. So I was spending a lot of time immersed in invention and inventors, and I was spending a lot of time with young men and women who were coming up with brilliant ideas today. And I started to follow their progress. I would get invested, and a lot of the young women were getting invested. And I realized there was a real disconnect, that people just couldn't imagine them as inventors as easily as their male counterparts. And I thought, that's interesting. It's like we don't have this iconic female inventor in our minds to kind of give them the stamp of authority. And I wondered if there was a story out there that we were missing. So I was hunting for the Bombshell story. And the producer gave me this book by Richard Woods, Hedy's Folly, that came out in 2011, where he really argues that Hedy and her co-inventor George Antile really could have done this fundamental thing that changed the world through frequency hopping, which is this that we have in most of our cell phones and GPS and Bluetooth technology. And I thought, oh my God, if this is really true, then this changes everything.
Right.
So I wanted to really crack it, and I wanted to voice and find out if we could sort of come as close as possible to proving for once and for all that she did this thing. And then we had to go and hunt for the tapes.
Yes, and how difficult was it to put the project together?
It actually was fairly simple because we had the backing of the wonderful Sloan Foundation. And they really, really care about women in science, and so they gave us a big grant right up front that covered about half the cost of making. And then American Masters got behind too, because I've been a long time PBS director, and they backed me, which was a wonderful act of faith. And so between those two things, we were able to get started pretty fast. And the whole thing we made in about 2 years.
Wonderful. And how you have just a long list of stars, people maybe not as famous, but you have a long list of Hedy experts, and including Mel Brooks. That was I felt like I just got the impression that was one of your favorite interviews.
It really was. I love Mel Brooks. I'm a huge fan.
And how difficult was it to get all those people lined up, and how long did it take to get them all scheduled to interview?
Yeah, it took the whole 2 years. We were doing interviews all the way until we submitted this to Tribeca. Yeah, it took a long time, especially someone like Mel Brooks. But I think he did it because our executive producer is Susan Sarandon, and we reached out personally. And he turns out had this emotional connection to Hedy Lamarr. He really remembered being this 13-year-old boy who'd gone off to cinema with his friends and been in love with this woman on screen. She really was the Angelina Jolie of her time. You know, she blew men's minds, and I think when Mel Brooks called his character Hedy in Blazing Saddles, it really was a kind of a tribute to her,
right?
In many ways,
right. And Hedy didn't like that too well, though, did she?
No, she didn't. Well, I think when she got older, she really had been the butt of a lot of jokes in the press because she didn't just lose her beauty. She sort of botched her face with plastic surgery, and she became the real target in the press for this sort of mockery. And poor old Hedy, you know, by the time Hedy Lamarr came along in Blazing Saddles, she was tired of being a punching bag, and she thought, I'm going to get some money back for these jokes. And so she sued Mel really just for the money. Said, you know, I understand it's for the money, and let's just pay her. Like, I don't want to fight this woman. She was a icon. Let's give her some money for the use of her name. And they gave her a generous check, and she dropped the suit. So I think she did have a sense of humor. I know she found it funny. I think she just was tired of everybody using her name in all of these ways and never getting paid. She was penniless by the end.
Right. At that point, you know, he was probably one of the few that really meant something extremely well, and she, yeah, I'm glad that was able to be fixed. And what ultimately do you think? I think I know the answer to the question, but what ultimately do you think Hedy would have liked her legacy to be or to have been?
I think Hedy wants her. See, I say the present tense because I feel like I know her.
Right.
It's you use somebody, they're in your mind all the time.
I know the feeling, by the way.
Yeah. So I think Hedy wants the world to see her as, you know, this brilliant mind. I really do. I think she wanted to do something for the world when she made this invention. I think she was trying to save, you know, the Jews of Austria. She was trying to save her mother. She was trying to save America. She was really doing this grand gesture. And when you do something like that in your life, I think that's what you want your legacy to be. I think she also would love to be remembered for her beauty, and she certainly is. But I don't think she was worried about that legacy. Her beauty had such a huge impact in her life the entire time. I don't think she was worried whether people would remember her for that.
Yeah, it's kind of odd. You can see early on in Hedy's life, you could see that she was not worried about the beauty, but when it faded and when she started doing the plastic surgery, which the film documents really well, you see once she's kind of lost it, it's not. She realizes, oh no, now people don't think I'm smart and now not even pretty anymore. That's kind of what she probably had to think. And you know,
well, look, yeah, I mean, I'm gonna go on my little rant here now. But
okay.
For women, power historically has beauty, not brains. You know, that women have barely been recognized for their minds, and when they do contributions, it usually gets appropriated by somebody else. And so, you know, it wasn't like Hedy didn't know that the world knew her for her beauty and would only give her power for her beauty. She was absolutely aware of that. And she got so frustrated at trying to be recognized for her brains that she kind of gave in and accepted that's just the way the world is. And so by the time she was older, she was just trying to use her inventive mind to keep her beauty going so she could keep some powers in the world and do things. And she couldn't do it. You know, she botched her face because plastic surgery just wasn't there yet. If she'd been doing that today, we probably wouldn't even know she was doing it. Yeah.
Well, we have come a long way, Alexandra. I will tell you right now that watching Bombshell, I can see the passion that you had in the project, and this is your project. Luckily, no one tried to appropriate your film, and I'm glad for that. And so, excellent job there.
Thank you.
And how did Hedy get along? Do you know how she got along with her co-stars?
It depended on the film for sure. Jimmy Stewart was her favorite. She loved him, and there's a really sweet story where she was running between 3 different film sets, and basically her inventions in this couple of years where it was just insane. And she was on one set with Clark Gable, and then she would run to Jimmy Stewart's set, and she wouldn't know her lines because she had so many films going at once. And he would stand in the footlights and just make her cards and hold them up for her.
Uh-huh.
And she remembered that right to the end of her life, and he used to live across the street from her, and she cared deeply for him and would talk about him, and I think, kept in communication with him until the end.
It's interesting you say that because I've been doing this podcast for a year and a half now, and I run across bad things that I don't want to find out about the old stars, and I will tell you, Jimmy Stewart's one of the 3 or 4 that I just haven't had anybody say anything bad about. So that's
He's the best. Yeah, he was sterling silver, that man.
I agree. And what would be your personal favorite Hedy Lamarr role?
I really enjoy her in Comrade X. I like seeing her doing comedy. I think she had a little bit of comic genius, and it wasn't really cultivated. So I like to see those little sparks of it, I love Ziegfeld Girl when she walks up that staircase, or rather down that staircase, of course. It's so iconic. It's so gorgeous. And I think, I like to watch her own films. I really do. I think it's really interesting to see her mind and what she wanted to produce, because the themes are so unique, in Strange Woman. It's such a unique theme because so few women were making films, and so few engineered the themes to be about themselves.
And one more question, and I know you got to get moving here. What are you working on right now?
I'm doing a documentary that's a kind of a follow-up to Bombshell, which is about Paris Hilton, who's a woman today that we don't take as seriously as we should, and we don't look behind the mask. And I think she's an extraordinary human who has built a big wall so people can't see her, but really interesting when you get beyond it and see who she really is.
When do you expect that to be complete?
That will be out in March.
Okay. Yeah, all right. Well, I will definitely promote that to my followers. So, hey, you know what, Alexandra? I really appreciate you coming on and talking about the wonderful, beautiful, and brilliant Hedy Lamarr. And there's so many things, more things we could talk about and get more in depth. But I really appreciate you carving out this time today, and hopefully we can do it again when that project is near completion or completed, and you can talk to me about that one as well.
Thanks so much, David.
Alexander, thank you very much. You have a wonderful day.
It's fun.
Okay. Hello, and now I have Stephen Michael Shearer on the line, and Stephen has written a book about Hedy Lamarr, and it came out a couple years ago, right, Stephen?
Yes, it came out in 2010. It was the first biography on Hedy.
Yeah, and so tell us first about your book and how you came upon the whole subject of her.
Well, my first book was on Patricia Neal, and I lived in New York at that time, and Pat was a very good friend of mine. I knew her, traveled with her the last 20 years of her life. She was a dear, dear lady. Shortly after 9/11, I had an opportunity to write her biography. She had already written her own autobiography, and I had an opportunity to write about Pat, and it was received very well. It did very well for my first publisher, and it established me as an author, and got me a literary agent well loved in the industry, certainly well loved among her colleagues, her friends, and people who I interviewed. They gave me marvelous interviews, not because of my pretty face, but because they loved Patricia. And so she established me. I thought all books were going to be that wonderful to write. But when I decided on Hedy Lamarr, whom I always thought, and it is questionable among many people who the most beautiful actress in film was, but in my estimation, it truly was Hedy Lamarr. And I remember when I was a child, back in the 60s, her own autobiography, Ecstasy in Me, was published, and it was terribly scandalous because it dealt a great deal with sex, which was rather taboo in those days in the mid 60s. But I remember reading that book, and of course I was just shocked at that early age. I mean, it's a very tame book to read now, and for the most part it was written by ghostwriters, and it was largely fiction. However, I always pondered in my mind what a good biography on Hedy Lamarr would be like. When I chose to do Hedy Lamarr, I started my research in Los Angeles at the Academy Library, and I had my doubts immediately. Hedy Lamarr was a very complicated woman, and going through archives and papers and microfiche and at that time microfiche, and what I discovered was that there was a lot of litigation, especially in the last part of her life, and I wasn't for sure if I wanted to go there or not. I didn't know how difficult this would be, but still I was fascinated with the woman, and so I charged ahead. I remember I received a phone call from a very important director who at that time they were planning to do a feature film about Hedy Lamarr, and she called me and asked me if I had found a voice for Hedy Lamarr, and I stretched the truth a great deal, and I said, yes, of course I have, but I hadn't even begun the project yet. But I knew Patricia Neal. She was a friend of mine. I wrote the book as objectively as possible during her lifetime. With Hedy Lamarr, I never knew the woman, but I knew there were going to be issues right off the bat. I contacted her daughter, and her daughter advised me that she and her brother were not keen on talking to authors about their mother because of past experiences that were not good. But I told her, I pleaded with her. I told her, I said, but I do want to write a respectable, objective book about your mother's career and about her life. And I do have to hit on all parts of her life. There was a shoplifting incident, was ecstasy. There were certain dark passages in her life that I told her I wasn't going to ponder or exploit, but I would have to touch upon those. But if I could send her a copy of Patricia Neal, An Unquiet Life, my book on Pat Neal, and if she would look at it, that's the type of book I wanted to do on Hedy Lamarr. She immediately got back with me as she had read the book very quickly, and she told me, if you can do a book about my mother as you did with Patricia Neal, I will help you as much as I can. Her brother Anthony later came on board the project. It was an interesting work. Most authors have in their mind exactly how they want to focus their point of view and how they want to focus on their book. With a film chronology, a biography, you have to remain objective. You cannot be editorial, but still you have to have a point of view, and you have to kind of know where you're going. But because it is a history lesson, and you gather all the millions of bits and pieces about a person's life, you start putting that puzzle together, and suddenly you start realizing things come to you. I had almost finished the book. It was at the 11th hour. I was about to finish the last chapters to forward to my publisher. And at the father was passing, and so one has to keep one's emotions out of a project like this. Yet at the same time, I did finish my interviews with people very, very close to Hedy. I did talk with Anthony, and at the 11th hour, some voices came to me. I don't know how better to explain it, but I started hearing Hedy Lamarr's voice. I started understanding her life very well, and I ended up rewriting that book in a matter of 2 months. I just completely rewrote the thing because I realized where her truth was, and her truth was that she had a very brilliant mind. She was a beautiful film actress. That's true. She had a very interesting life before she came to Hollywood in 1937. She had a very dark period in her life after her career was over. But at the end of the tunnel, towards the end of her life, a realization, an international realization came about where a patent she had taken out during World War II, a patent she and eccentric musician George Antile had taken a patent out for the government to help and abet our government in developing military weapons. A device she called frequency hopping. The government had no idea what to do with this project. It was a project based on how missiles could better hit their targets. And Hedy, because of her past life in Austria and because of her history, had a knowledge. She also was a very brilliant woman, and she had a deep passion to help the government during the early days of World War II. And she and George Antile brainstormed, developed this patent. The government didn't know what to do with it, and it lay dormant until after it's expired in 1959, the same year Antile passed away. And during the Cuban Missile Crisis, our government readdressed that patent because they had to figure out a way how our ships could communicate with each other without the Russians intercepting the messages during the Cuban Missile Crisis. And from the government readdressing that and developing it, frequency hopping became the nucleus for every cell phone, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, Milstar satellite there is. She never earned a dime off this, but she was acknowledged shortly before her death as having one of the most brilliant minds of the 20th century. And November 9th, her birthday, is International Science Day. In India, it's actually called Hedy Lamarr Day. She is that revered. I wasn't the first to write about this. However, I was the first to put it in a biography as beautiful. The Life of Hedy Lamarr is the first biography on Hedy. And what I was so amazed was that this woman left us a dual legacy of both a marvelous canon of film. She was so beautiful to look at. You could never take your eyes off her on the screen. But yet she also left us the legacy of scientific invention, which I'm not for sure, but I don't think too many other actors have done that. Right. So all in all, that's kind of how the story developed and how the story came about. And I certainly loved the reception that beautiful The Life of Hedy Lamarr has received over the years, and she's still quite alive. The project is still going.
Yeah, she's such an interesting subject. If you don't mind, I'd like to go to that. You mentioned something that in the beginning, about how you didn't want to be negative in your book, but you're obviously not going to just omit things. What do you think? We obviously know the movie Ecstasy. We understand what that was all about. That was just an actress that was beginning and all. But what do you make of the shoplifting incident? And what do you know about that exactly?
Well, I think, stars of her era a star. She was never acknowledged so much for her acting ability because of her lilting Viennese accent. But if you watch her, and I say this repeatedly in my lectures when I talk about Hedy Lamarr, if you do watch her on film, she does exactly as Robert Osborne, the late Robert Osborne, Turner Classic Movies, who did the preface of my book, as he said in his foreword, she does exactly what her character is called upon to do. She was never handed great parts in motion pictures, but she was still nonetheless so breathtakingly beautiful. She was a star. And like I said, her films were all A motion pictures. Her life as a earlier life in Austria, she was a young actress there before she came to Hollywood, where she did make Ecstasy in Czechoslovakia for the great Gustav Makati. And that particular film, by the way, has recently been restored. The government is very, very proud of that motion picture, and it does play prime time on Turner Classic Movies, and it does include the nude scene, and it is not as erotic or as pornographic as prurient 1935 audiences here in the United States condemned it to be. But that particular film made her a star in Europe. But prior to that, she was raised in a very affluent Jewish family, mother and father. She was an only child, so she was always pampered. Getting to your question, though, she had lived a life quite exclusive, quite different than most of us, and as several other stars of the studio system from that era found out once the studio system died, it was hard to live and work and in the real world with the studio not pandering and doing for you. Hedy Lamarr's generation of women, film actresses, they were used to walking into stores and collecting this, that, and the other. They usually had assistants with them. As a matter of fact, she did have her manager with her during that particular incident with the May Company in 1966. And unfortunately, however, she had been observed picking up items here and there. She was acquitted of this shoplifting incident, but it effectively ended her career. She was on the verge of making a comeback in a rather minor film, Picture Mommy Dead, and she was about to start that film that particular week, but she was picking up minor items, cosmetic items, this, that, and the other, and she was stopped on her way out of the store. Normally, those items were accountable to whoever she was with, and they in turn acknowledged or told the store employees, this is what this particular star is going to purchase, send us a bill. At least that's the story that was told in court. Hedy Lamarr was never that desperate, but she was also a very spoiled individual as well. So she was acquitted. Robert Osborne was a young actor at that time before he started hosting, before he became a Hollywood reporter, and also television host of Turner Classic Movies. He was a young actor, and he had befriended Hedy, and he was in court every day during the trial. And if you read the book, Beautiful, The Life of Hedy Lamarr, every day of that trial is accounted for in the narrative. And whether she did or didn't is not the point. The fact of the matter is that it was a great humiliation to her and her children, and it effectively ruined her in Hollywood. She was still a young and vital-looking woman. She didn't look like the Hedy Lamarr from Algiers. She didn't look like the Hedy Lamarr of Samson and Delilah, but she was still a beautiful woman and a very attractive, young-looking woman. She could have extended her career, but unfortunately that incident put a demise to that.
Right. Yeah. It's unfortunate. Another thing I wanted to cover is I would like to find out why. Okay, we've documented that we've got somebody here who basically leaves as a dual legacy. Oh, first of all, we'll get into the invention in a minute, but what about her acting career first? Why do you think in the beginning Louis B. Mayer suppressed her career? Do you believe that he did that intentionally, or do you? Because obviously she has, like you said, this marvelous collection of work, but I think the prevailing thought is she was still suppressed, and she was given roles that were kind of beneath her. What do you think? What do you say to that?
But in answer to your question, Hedy's beauty was a moment of time. We had just lost in Hollywood. We had just gone through a period in the beginning in the early 30s with Jean Harlow. We had just gone through a period of bleach blondes and snappy dialogue and romantic comedies, etc. So in 1937, when Louis B. Mayer re-met Hedy Lamarr on the Normandy, coming over to America, he signed her to a contract, but he didn't know what to do with her. First of all, she didn't know English very well. She could speak several languages. English was I think the fifth or sixth language on her list that she did not have a handle on. So she had to learn English. She had done some tests, and unfortunately they weren't of dramatic caliber. So he loaned her out to Walter Wanger, United Artists, and at a party she had met Charles Boyer and Wanger, and they decided, because they needed a beauty, they needed an image, they needed a somnambulist, I guess, to walk through the part of Gabby in Algiers with Charles Boyer, who was the top male box office star that year. And so she made her film debut for another studio, and she played just everything that was required of her was to stand still and look beautiful, and she did that perfectly. And her reviews were magnificent. We needed an exotic at that time, at that moment in time. She introduced turbans. She introduced dress style. All of a sudden, her perfect figure and her perfect face was just perfect, if you will, for that moment in time. So coming back to Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer, before she even had made her first movie, she was a star. But Louis B. Mayer didn't know what to do with her, simply because he could take a shop girl like Lucille Lesueur and cosmetically and whatever, through diet and exercise and makeup, reinvent her every 5 minutes to change her name to Joan Crawford and make a pseudo-sophisticate out of a shop girl. He could do that. He did that with several actresses. But he was given a piece of porcelain. He was given a piece of gold, and he didn't know what to do with her. She was already a star in Europe, or she had been, but she was now a star in Hollywood, and he had no properties that he could offer her. He didn't quite know what to do with her, but he was obsessed with her because he knew she was box office. So he put her in a couple of films that just totally didn't work out, but she was quite smart. And she knew she wanted to make an impression. And so she campaigned for a small role in a movie called Boomtown with Clark Gable, Spencer Tracy, and
one of my favorites.
There. And it is an interesting film. You can tell on the opening credits as Boomtown scrolls from right to left on the screen. You can tell it's up there in the caliber of Gone with the Wind, if you will, in that it was an A movie.
Yes.
And she petitioned for a smaller role, the second female lead, and she stole the picture from those three stars and Victor Fleming, who had directed the film. And from the film itself, she was the one thing that people took away from that experience of watching Boomtown. So she established herself at MGM, and Louis B. Mayer, I don't think he ever forgave her for that, but then again, she also had a strong will, and she said, now I'm not going to take $550 a week, I expect to have a bit more. And she actually went on strike a couple of times. It's all in the book. And she actually went on strike, and this didn't set well with Mayer. And he wouldn't lend her out to any studios. She was actually offered the role of Ilsa in Casablanca at Warner Brothers. Michael Curtiz wanted her. And he wanted George Raft too, but thankfully Humphrey Bogart was available and Raft turned it down. But she could have played Ilsa in Casablanca, and that movie would have left her as an iconic figure in movie history. But Mayer wouldn't lend her out until 1944, and then he lent her out to RKO, where she made Experiment Perilous, and also over to Warner Brothers finally, and made two motion pictures that were two of her finest performances. At Warner Brothers, she made The Conspirators. But she did have a couple of opportunities at MGM. She did make a motion picture, which most people are totally unfamiliar with, but it's totally worth a watch. A movie called H.M. Pullum, Esquire. Unfortunately, it was a film that was going to make was promoted as to be the breakthrough major leading man motion picture for actor Robert Young. And it was a lovely book. It was a timepiece. And Hedy played an American working woman. And surprisingly, she pulled it off. The unfortunate thing about that motion picture was it was released the week of Pearl Harbor. And nobody wanted to see a nostalgic, emotional weeper at that time with our entry into World War II happening, and so the movie just bombed. But that was one of her most amazing performances. She worked opposite an actor named John Garfield, again with Spencer Tracy, in a motion picture called Tortilla Flat. And she handed in an amazing performance, because as a former actor, I know if you work with an actor of caliber on the stage or in front of a camera, if you work with somebody who is working, you work too. And she was amazing opposite John Garfield in their scenes in Tortilla Flat. But what did Louis B. Mayer hand her? He handed her a very sordid film, and it was a movie that she was Tondaleo, and it was called White Cargo.
Right.
And unfortunately, it's made tons of money. It was probably one of her biggest box office hits, but it was aimed at the servicemen. She wore a sarong, she danced a provocative dance, and she died a horrible death from Walter Pidgeon in that movie. And it's amazing that he would give her a film like that, but all her movies made money. They weren't the box office bonanzas of Gone with the Wind or Mrs. Miniver or any of Casablanca or any of these iconic films, but they were good films. One thing that I've done in all three of my film biographies I've tried to impress on the reader to study these films. Motion pictures are debatably America's one true art form. Some people say jazz. I say motion pictures because jazz didn't create us or make us who we are. Motion pictures, however, produced our society, produced who we are by our children, our grandchildren. Watching motion pictures teaches us behavior, and it teaches us what other worlds and other societies are like. And so motion pictures of the golden era really created our society, created America, if you will, to who we were and what we were during the 20s, 30s, 40s, and 50s, during some very crucial moments in our collective history. So when I write my books, I try to enforce to the reader, you should watch these movies. Oh, they're good, they're bad, they're indifferent. But don't waste your time on crap. Watch things that'll teach you something. Watch motion pictures that you can be entertained. Whatever your choice of entertainment is, and mine happen to be motion pictures where I can lose myself in the dark. And with the films of Hedy Lamarr, the films of Patricia Neal, the films of Gloria Swanson, my third book, all these motion pictures are worth watching simply to watch these particular characters, these particular individuals do their craft, but also to watch where we were at the time these pictures were being made. And in my narrative, in my books, I try not to just say, and then she did this, and then she did that, but to encourage the reader to realize what was going on at that time. Hedy Lamarr left us so many lovely pictures. So they're totally entertaining. Some of them aren't very good. Some of them are a lot better than people remember. But that's why I write about these people, because I do think that there was no book on Patricia Neal other than her autobiography. There was no book on Hedy Lamarr other than her autobiography. And there was no book on Gloria Swanson other than her autobiography when I wrote my books. And there's a reason for that, because these women their careers needed to be looked at. And Hedy Lamarr, because of the impact she has made in this world with her patent, to me, she's very important. Read all you can about Hedy Lamarr. I have people come up to me today, educators, teachers in the public school systems. Interesting, when in 1973, I interviewed Mel Brooks for this book, as a matter of fact. In 1974, he released Blazing Saddles, and in that movie, comedian Harvey Korman's character, was called Hedy Lamarr.
Yeah.
And there's even a line in the movie where he said, well, they're not getting my name, I'm paraphrasing here, they're not getting my name correct. They keep calling me Hedy. Hey, Hedy. And it's Hedy. It's Hedy Lamarr. Well, something about it's 1874. She's not even born yet. She can sue later, or something to that effect. But she was still quite alive, and that film was a huge comedy, a huge box office success, but it also affected a generation. I was coming of age when that film came out, a lot of people were, and for a generation or two, every time, if you heard, Hedy Lamarr's career was over, effectively, by the 1960s, so she had been out of the limelight. A lot of people didn't know who she was, but when they heard Hedy Lamarr, they associated that with Blazing Saddles and Harvey Korman. So for a generation or two, anytime that name was mentioned, there was a chuckle. Not now, because the younger generation and their parents, the children in grade school and their parents, don't get that. All they know is Hedy Lamarr, didn't she invent something? Most of them don't even know she was a film actress. And I think that's brilliant, because Hedy Lamarr, her true legacy of the two, she certainly left that canon of work on film, and all of her films are in existence. I've viewed every single one of them. And most of her television appearances are too, but they're not really, she was not good on live TV or comedy. But she was good in motion pictures, most certainly. And they are really worth empowering, especially for young women, because the tragedy about Hedy Lamarr, the reason I call the book beautiful, The Life of Hedy Lamarr, I call the book beautiful, is because women of her era, especially if they were beautiful and film actresses, they were little more than set decoration. Joan Crawford, Betty Davis, they had their pretty moments in film. They were attractive in some and not so attractive in later films, but they were never called beautiful, never considered beauties of the screen. Garbo, certainly. Hedy Lamarr, certainly. And there were pretty women, Lana Turner, and most of the MGM beauties, Paramount Pretties, etc. They were all pretty, but few were called beautiful. And Hedy Lamarr literally took your breath away. I quoted my mother. My mother was 14 years old in 1939. This was 2 years after Algiers came out, but it finally hit her town, little hometown of Ottawa, Illinois, in 1939. And when my mother passed away, I was reading through her diary when she was a 14-year-old, and she and her best girlfriend went to the local movie theater in Ottawa, Illinois, to see her favorite film star, Charles Boyer, in his latest movie, Algiers. And she told me shortly before her passing, when I was writing the book, she told me, she said, I'll tell you about that night. She said, we sat in the dark. Everybody had heard about this Hedy Lamarr, but we didn't know who she was. And, you know, the movie magazines were just coming out with pictures of her. But her entrance in Algiers comes about 30, 35 minutes into the movie. And she's shown full-figured with a group of people coming forward in a room towards the camera in heavy shadows. James Wong Howe, the great cinematographer, Academy Award-winning cinematographer, James Wong Howe photographed this movie, and he had her in light and dark, and as she is walking toward the screen, right as she's about to walk right off the screen, she turns her face full front to the camera, and my mother said there was an audible gasp in the audience. She said, never before and never since have I ever heard an audience gasp at the beauty of an actress like that. And she said it literally took your breath away. So it is definitely, she had a breathtaking beauty. I think that legacy on film certainly stands up because, like I said, you can't take your eyes off her. However, her patent, her legacy of scientific invention will stand the test of time. It's one of the most important inventions of the 20th century.
Right. And let me ask you a couple more questions about her film career. And I want to ask you first. Now we talked on this podcast. I talked with Sherry Snyder, the author of the Barbara Lamarr biography, and she and I speculated on what might have happened had Irving Thalberg survived, because Irving Thalberg was if I'm not mistaken, about hitting his stride right at the same time where Hedy's career went from Boomtown to basically White Cargo. And he died a few years before that. But what do you think might have happened if Irving Thalberg would have been alive during that time? Do you think that, first of all, I know this is probably a little more all-encompassing, but do you think MGM had a better chance of being great for a long period of time? And then do you think that would have been good for Hedy's career?
Well, you can't speculate on something like that. Irving Thalberg and Louis B. Mayer were like water and oil. Together they worked, they created, helped create the studio system with Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer. But Thalberg passed away in 36 at a very young age. His wife, Norma Shearer, was the queen of the lot. Norma Shearer, who people ask me all the time, is she related to you? And unfortunately, no. But Norma Shearer was the queen of a lot. Joan Crawford often bemoaned the fact that Norma got the choice parts, and as Crawford was coming up. But Thalberg had taste. Thalberg, had he had Hedy Lamarr. Hedy Lamarr, I think, would have been better had she signed with Warner Brothers, but she didn't. She was once offered, when she was in Europe, she was once offered a Paramount contract. And Paramount was bringing in all the exotics at that time as well, all the European exotics. Of course, they handled and mishandled Marlene Dietrich. But I think had Hedy been brought over in the early 1930s, of course she was still a young child. That's when she began motion pictures. She was only 16, I think, in 1930. But had she been brought over during that era with Paramount, she might have at least established a name with the movies that they were cranking out at that time. Paramount was going bankrupt until Mae West finally started earning them some money. But at any rate, Irving Thalberg, his motion pictures had taste. They had class. If you watch, as a producer, he didn't take credit on his films, but the films that he was actively involved with at Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer are some of the classic motion pictures of all times. The Good Earth, which came out the year after he died. And certainly he set up other motion pictures that were in progress that did come out even years later. Marie Antoinette with Norma came out in 1938. Jerome Power was borrowed from Fox for that. But Hedy didn't come over until 1937. Now, you can't speculate what could have happened because, fortunately or unfortunately, facts are facts and times are times. And the war was a boom era for all the Hollywood studios. They made more money during the 1940s than they ever did in the 20s and 30s, simply because there was a need for entertainment. There was a need to escape the atrocities of war. And the motion pictures made tons of money. Had Hedy Lamarr come along in the 1950s, and again, every decade has had a glut of European exotics come over. Some do, some don't. Sophia Loren did. Some in the 1950s, but some don't. And Hedy took. She was an extreme patriot. This is something I needed to talk about too.
Absolutely.
She loved her country. She loved her country very much. She went on two very major war bond tours and sold more war bonds in one day than any film actor. And we're talking Lana Turner, we're talking Jimmy Cagney, Greer Garson, any film actor. In one day, Hedy Lamarr, I think, sold close to $9 million in war bonds. That's $9 million in World War II currency. Simply because she knocked herself out on those tours, and she sold kisses, and her appearance, people wanted to see her because of her beauty. She loved America through the auspices of MGM and Louis B. Mayer. Her mother finally escaped Europe. She lived in London during the Blitz, but she finally got to America in 1942. And Hedy was she didn't become a U.S. citizen until 1953. But like I said, during the war, we knew we were in crises because of the sudden attack in the Pacific, but also in the North Atlantic, we didn't have the wolf packs, the submarine fleet that the Germans did. So we were losing on both parts of the world, and so she brainstormed with Antile, and together they took out this patent. And like I said, I wasn't the first to write about it. As a matter of fact, the New York Times and the LA Times both mentioned this red hot, as they called it, red hot patent that pretty little film actress Hedy Lamarr did. It was such a unique patent that the government couldn't talk about it, and then quickly they changed the subject to the hundreds or so other woke up. Men married Hedy Lamarr, and they woke up with me. And that's a tragic thing to say, but at any rate, she was a great patriot. She became a U.S. citizen again in 1953, and she spent the rest of her days after Hollywood in the 60s. She spent the rest of her days in New York and Florida, where she passed away in 2000.
Yes. And so we have somebody like you said is just leaves behind a dual legacy. She was somebody that just, I don't think anybody in the 1930s and 40s and 50s quite understood exactly how to wrap their head around how brilliant this woman was in more than one way. But I would like for you to talk a little bit more about the exact invention that she came about with. I mean, the whole idea of this being the precursor to it's to Wi-Fi and GPS too, right? Is that
Mm-hmm.
yeah?
Well, yeah. I mean, the nucleus of the technology that was put in developing the cell phone. Hedy's first marriage was with Austrian munitions czar Fritz Mandel, third richest man in Austria. His best friend was Prince von Hardenberg, who happened to be the vice chancellor of Austria.
Mm-hmm.
And at any rate, Fritz Mandel, in the beginning in the 1920s, and took over his father's munitions factory, and in Austria, and started supplying the growing fascist governments with armament, which was against the Treaty of Versailles. But at any rate, he straddled both sides of the fence. He was a born Jew. However, he was considered an honorary Aryan simply because he supplied the fascist governments with these military weapons. He was extremely wealthy. He and Hedy had, she retired from film. She had made Ecstasy in 33, and she married him in 1933. And they retired, or she retired, and she was more or less a trophy wife. She was young and beautiful. He was a bit older than her. And they lived in total luxury in Vienna. They had a palace. They had a hunting lodge. They had, I think they had another home somewhere. But at any rate, they did a lot of traveling. They did a lot of spending. And Hedy was draped in jewels and furs, and she was not allowed to socialize very much, certainly not with her crowd of people in theater and film that she preferred to be with, simply because Fritz would not allow it. So he kind of more or less kept her captive. She had to account for her time. She had to stay under constant surveillance. She was a trophy wife, and night after night after night at one of their luxurious abodes, Fritz would entertain his cronies, and they would talk armaments, and they would talk about the growing fear that of what was going to happen to the Jews in Europe. Adolf Hitler had clearly written in his Mein Kampf what he was planning to do with the Jews in Austria.
Mm-hmm.
And Hedy's parents, feared for her. Her father passed away in 1935, and her mother, and she saw what was happening. But during those long, boring nights at the dinner table with Fritz and his colleagues and his businessmen, etc., Hedy would listen. Hedy would listen to what was being said Mussolini was quite attracted to Hedy at that time. But they never met Adolf Hitler, nor would that have happened because they were both Jewish. So I think there was a book or two that was written, novels that were written about Hedy Lamarr. One about Hedy Lamarr and Adolf Hitler. It's total fiction, complete fiction, and but still the reality was that this was happening in Europe, and it took a long time. It took a long time for Hedy to finally come to her senses and realize she had to escape, and that is exactly what she did. In the middle of the night, she left Fritz, went to London, found an agent, met with Louis B. Mayer, and who was on a European tour bringing talent from Europe, and his last European tour before the Anschluss of Austria in 1938, which effectively started the war. At any rate, Hedy knew she had to get out, and so she came to the United States. And all this time, she worried about her mother. Well, of course, when Austria was taken over by Germany, her mother had friends in London, and she escaped to London. But during the Blitzkrieg, she suffered, like everyone else in London, with the horrors of the night raid. So Hedy worried about her mother a great deal. By coincidence, and it's again in the book, and she met George Antile, who was doing motion picture scores at that time. He was a brilliant musician. His work was a bit strange. He wrote, in 1925, he wrote the Ballet Mécanique, which was an amazing cacophony of sound using multiple player pianos. He eventually included airplane propellers and later even jet engines in his symphonic work, Ballet Mécanique. But he also did some other interesting pieces. And there were usually riots that broke out during his concerts here in New York and also overseas. But at any rate, he was doing film. And he also, as a hobby, wrote about the endocrine system, about how glands influence your mindset. And there was a theory in the late 30s that your glands made you a criminal or not. And he wrote various articles in various magazines, and he was good friends with a famous costume designer at MGM, Adrian. And Adrian's wife at that time was the first female Academy Award winner, Janet Gaynor. So Janet Gaynor and Adrian invited Hedy and George to a dinner party, and Hedy wanted to talk to George about increasing her breast size. Louis B. Mayer said American audiences, American men like women that are a little bit larger than you, dear. And so she was there for a purpose, to talk about that. Somehow, during the conversation and later meetings with George Antile, they started talking about the war. George Antile's brother was in a plane that exploded over Europe. He was indeed one of the first casualties of World War II. And George Antile had a certain animosity toward the fascist governments, most certainly. So he and Hedy sat down to talk about how these torpedoes, which kept missing their mark, they would be shot out of submarines or off of destroyers, and they'd get a mind of their own. Sometimes they'd even double back, but there was a particular incident where a passenger ship carrying a huge amount of orphan children was torpedoed by a German submarine. Fortunately, the torpedo was a dud, but it was impacted into the side of the ship, and so when the ship did reach safe harbor, they examined and studied the torpedo to see how far in advance the Germans had come in getting their torpedoes to hit their mark. So this intrigued Hedy, and it intrigued George Antile, and Hedy's contribution to that particular patent was the sending of the wireless communication. She thought that if a torpedo sent the weapon could direct it, and with a wireless communication that would keep it on course, by frequently changing the wireless communication every few seconds, the torpedo talking back to the sender, that this communication could direct the torpedo to hit its mark. George Antile contributed, because of his musical background, contributed the receptive part of that as using the concept of 88 keys on a piano, and if they kept moving in sync with the transmitted communication from the sender, that this could be accomplished. So that was their contribution. However, the government kept thinking, well, how are you going to get a piano into a torpedo? They couldn't wrap their minds over how this could be developed. But it was intriguing nonetheless. There were other military ideas that Hedy and George had, but the government just kept them under wraps. But like I said, in 1962, they readdressed that. By then, transistors had come about. Smaller communication devices were in development. Sonar, etc., were being utilized. And now it's just totally amazing what technology we have today. But all of that, every bit of that, has to be attributed to the original frequency hopping that Hedy Lamarr and George Antile developed. And so, like I said, the scientific community wholeheartedly and completely acknowledge this today. But 25 years ago, it was still a matter of we were laughing at Mel Brooks, Hedy Lamarr.
Yeah, it's an amazing story. Stephen, I really appreciate you coming on here. Let me ask you one more question, bringing it back to the film career. Do you have any particular favorite roles that she played?
Well, I say this, and I always expect a reaction. I always expect, ooh, I love it, ooh, I hate it, or why that film, or are you kidding, or oh, I agree, but I never get a response, not one single response. I've told Anthony Loder and Denise Loder and every Loder I can come in contact with that my favorite film, Hedy Lamarr did have one motion picture, truly, which she will be remembered for, and that's Cecil B. DeMille's Samson and Delilah. It started the whole biblical, DeMille had made the Ten Commandments back in the 20s, and he made still a brilliant film, King of Kings, in 1927. Those films, although they're silent, are still quite powerful. But truly, in 1949, he did Samson and Delilah with the great Victor Mature, and he directed Hedy Lamarr as Delilah. That motion picture started the trend of all those great biblical epics that followed, The Robe, and the remake of The King of Kings, the greatest story ever told. All these great films of the 1950s, these biblical epics. Samson and Delilah is probably what she'll best be remembered for. Certainly Ecstasy was a film that put her on the map. It's still a breathtakingly beautiful movie to watch. Algiers is memorable because Charles Boyer, Come With Me to the Casbah, and there are the two films that I mentioned, that Metro Golden Mare, that she did make, HM Pullum Esquire, and Tortilla Flat. Those two films are brilliant. There are other movies that are quite interesting to watch. She handed in two great performances, RKO, Experiment, Perilous, and my favorite motion picture of Hedy Lamarr's, The Conspirators, 1944, with Paul Henreid for Warner Brothers. For personal reasons, and I even say that, personal reasons, nobody asked me why, and I suppose I'm just not going to tell. But for personal reasons, that motion picture means a lot to me. She's beautiful in that film. She is, and it's interesting, she could have had a very major career
it's really impressive. All the knowledge. I have a feeling that you could talk for hours about Hedy Lamarr. We've just scratched the surface, but I'll tell you what. If anyone wants to dig deeper, they've got a resource. So again, it's called Beautiful: The Life of Hedy Lamarr. It's by Stephen Michael Shearer. I'm going to put a link for your book on my Facebook page, so people can look at it and take a look at it and purchase it. And the reason why I do this podcast is because really subjects like this is almost I'm going to say one of the most important podcasts I think I've ever done, because she does have this dual legacy, and even though the name is familiar to a lot of people, I still think it should just be more than just a name. I want people to understand who this woman is, and between you and the other people on this particular program that I've already interviewed, including the director of the movie Bombshell, not the new one that just came out, but the Alexander Dean production, and it's unfortunate there's two movies with the same name. It's so close to each other, but in time, but what I'd like to ask you, Stephen, is would you be willing to come back on here again and talk to me about Gloria Swanson at some point?
I'd love to. Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Well,
you're right about that. I never tire about talking about my subjects. Certainly, I appreciate people who buy my books and read my books, etc. But most importantly, I want people to study film, to watch where we came from. These actors. I've written 3 books on women. I'm dying to get my hands on a couple of film actors, if I can talk my editors into it. But I still think that it's very important that we learn where we came from and how we got there. Certainly with Hedy Lamarr, her influence with her invention, her patent, has influenced our lives dramatically, not only our lives here in America, but lives everywhere. So it's important to know our history. This is something that in this country, at any rate, history just doesn't seem that important. People think of themselves as more important than their history. We have to look at our history and know where we are and where we're going. And film history, like I said, to me, it created our society. So we need to know where we got this, where we learned that, how we were then. And these 3 women made great impacts in theater, film, and television. And certainly with people who do love motion pictures, who do love film history, each and every one of them have made a major impact in some way on all of us. We just need to read their story, learn about them, learn about other actors, why they were who they were, and I think it goes back, David, when I was a kid, when I was about 10 years old. My mother pulled out of the attic this big, huge book. It used to be a men's clothing book that they took from store to store with fabric samples in it, and she and her girlfriend during the Depression ripped out all the fabric samples and started gluing in pictures of movie stars from film magazines and clippings from around the Chicago area of stars and celebrities. And she kept that her whole life. And she pulled that out of the attic in the early 60s when I was just a kid and gave that to me. And I remember opening that thing up and looking at these beautiful, beautiful people. And I thought, who are these people? Who beautiful. And my mother, I remember, would stay up at night and watch movies on TV. And as I grew older, when I was in my teens during the summer, I'd stay up and watch movies late at night on TV. And I started reading at about the age of 10. I started reading adult biography. I started reading. My purpose in life when I was 10 and 11 years old was to learn everything I could about these beautiful people in this book. And by doing that, it developed me. It taught me how to use library resources. It developed my imagination. I later became an actor on television and in film and even on off-Broadway in New York. I acted for a while just to get that sense of what was their life experience like. They had lives good, bad, and indifferent. Some were tragic, some were wonderful, some were still around when I was growing up. So it was important that I learn and try to connect with what I thought was my reality in those days. And it stood me well. I mean, went on to school, went on to college. I used my library resources. I'm in heaven when I'm in the library. I know how to research. I know where to go. I know where the usual suspects are. It's a part of my life. And the fact that my first book, Patricia Neal, has been out now for 13 years. Patricia Neal still has life in her. They just wound up making a feature-length motion picture in England by a couple of Academy Award-winning producers and award-winning actresses, and based on my book. So I'm still part of that industry who, when I was just a dirt-eating kid in Illinois, who would have thought? But I found it fascinating. I found it my life work is to write about these people and not necessarily be an actor and be in the industry as much as seeing it perpetuated and seeing their lives perpetuated. And in film, it is the only reality I know is when my dreams come true.
So those are the interviews that I had for the podcast. And, just to kind of wrap things up about Hedy Lamarr, she was born in 1914, and she died shortly after the new year in 2000, January 19th of 2000. She was born in Vienna, and then she came over and made lots of movies and dazzled audiences with her beauty. And she helped invent the technology that eventually became Wi-Fi and Bluetooth and the cell phone that you might be listening to this from right now. An amazing woman with a dual legacy. Now, if you're going to come out after this and watch some Hedy Lamarr movies, you might want to start with Samson and Delilah. You might want to start with Boomtown. And as my podcast guest, Stephen Michael Shear, suggested, H.M. Pullum, Esquire, Tortilla Flat, good films. Ziegfeld Girl, definitely a good film. But, you can look at the list of movies, but those are the ones that I'd suggest to start with. My personal favorite is Boomtown, and as Stephen Michael Shear stated during the interview, she just captivates the screen. And we've got Clark Gable and Spencer Tracy, who are just not just veteran actors, but they're legends. But all we can see is Hedy Lamarr. And as Marie Benedict had indicated in our earlier interview, she directed a couple of movies, The Strange Woman and Dishonored Lady. And Dishonored Lady Oh, she makes herself out to be kind of an evil woman. Might be worth a look as well. Not my favorite, but it is great watching her in a different kind of role. Well, not much else I can add to what these three really brilliant people and great contributors to this podcast have already said. I want to take this time to thank a few people. I definitely want to thank Marie Benedict, and go out and get her book, The Only Woman in the Room, about Hedy Lamarr, and I'm sure you'll be enriched by it. And also, make sure and watch the Alexander Dean movie, Bombshell, the Hedy Lamarr story. That film came out in 2017, and it's available several different avenues, including Netflix, I know. But I really want to take an extra moment to thank Alexandra for taking her time to talk to me about the wonderful Hedy Lamarr. And also, of course, Stephen Michael Shear, who was just absolutely beautiful on this podcast. Really appreciate all of the insight that he had to offer. Stephen, as you could tell, has a remarkable amount of passion, and truly has an adoration for Hedy Lamarr. And I also want to take a minute to thank Anthony Loader. That is Hedy Lamarr's son, and I had several conversations with Anthony, and tried to get a recorded conversation, but we couldn't quite connect before I wanted this podcast to get out there. So maybe at a future time I can talk more with him, but I hopefully he gets a chance to listen to this, and I do appreciate the conversation that I had with the conversations that I had with Anthony. And Anthony in particular is really proud of his mother's scientific legacy. He's really proud of that. Oh, and I almost forgot. Wanted to say one more time about Stephen Michael Shear's book. It is called Beautiful, the Life of Hedy Lamarr. Well, this is David Heath, and I really appreciate everybody listening to this podcast, and I hope that you dig in and learn about Hedy Lamarr through these marvelous books, and I also would like for you to be able to watch some of her great films. She really did leave a dual legacy. But this is Cinema Chat, and this is the podcast where we talk about the movies and the people that made them.
Oh, we'll have to learn to take no for an answer once in a while.
I wouldn't let you give me that answer.
Take a look at yourself. Why should I want to?
Tomorrow, then?
Okay.